The countdown for last year's Matric results has begun. The class of 2022, you're all going to know your fate on Thursday. I really do wish you all the very best to the parents, the grandparents, the caregivers, and of course the pupils as well for those results. Well, the Basic Education Department labelling last year's class as one of the most difficult. And let's not forget how badly they were affected by the COVID-19 pandemic as they dealt with that pandemic, if you think about it, all the way from grade 10. So grade 10, 11 and 12, 3 important years, and they were essentially in lockdown, weren't they? Well, leading social investment specialists are predicting a lower national pass rate compared to previous years. What a pleasure to welcome Lumka Tshiki from Tshikululu Social Investments joining us on the show here this afternoon. And Lumka, hello to you. And I mean, it won't come as a surprise really to expect lower pass rates, because for those 3 years, grade 10, grade 11, grade 12, it is a whole new world of learning. But how much lower are you expecting? Good to have you with me.
Thanks for having me today, Gareth, and welcome to everyone on the show today. I mean, you've set it out quite nicely to say that this cohort of Matric students would have technically been in grade 10 when we first had our COVID lockdown, the first one. And so they would have sat through the timetabling issues that we went through. They would have rotated, they would have platooned, which obviously means lost contact time with teachers. And I think the research shows that we'll probably be looking at about 1.3 years of learning losses that these learners would have had to face leading up to their Matric exams. Having looked at the last 2 years, the Matric results have been a lot better than we anticipated, given things like COVID and the learning losses. And so we're really hoping that, best case scenario, we can see a slight tick upwards for this cohort of Matric students. But given all the other challenges that they've faced, I mean, load shedding being the main one that, that we're facing even today, I can only imagine that the pass rate would significantly have been affected by so many challenges. And this cohort of Matric students, I think even a little bit more than the students who wrote 2 years 2 years ago and last year, have struggled with a lot more that they've had to contend with in terms of challenges, which would have affected their ability to really thrive in these exams.
And I think despite all of that, Lumka, I always tend to think that this cohort, I'm thank you for using the word cohort, I got a bit tongue-tied, I couldn't think of it, from that grade 10, grade 11, grade 12 last year, results coming out now. If we can see even close to the Matric results pre-COVID, just imagine how well prepared these pupils, these matriculants, will be for TVET colleges, university, whatever, because they would have had to study at a level just to get through that you and I, respectfully, I'm sure, didn't do when we wrote our Matric exams.
Absolutely. And I think it goes without saying, because the challenges that they have had have not ever been, nobody has had to contend with those. And I think if we can even get to any number that's pre our COVID numbers, it would have been a really big success, not only for the cohort, but I think for the country as a whole. But I think even when you consider the interconnectedness of education, Gareth, it's difficult to consider how these students could even get to those pre-COVID-19 numbers when you think about the losses that they would have had, lost learning time, infrastructure, school infrastructure, the learner-teacher ratios in schools are still exorbitant. And so I do think that it's very unlikely that we will see those pre-COVID-19 numbers, but that if we had to see that, it would be a really big win for our country, especially in those critical subjects. I know that most people would like to talk about the 30% pass rate, as an indicator for whether we really are doing well or not as a country. But I think if we can even see anything in terms of the overall pass rate, close to those pre-COVID-19 numbers, it really would have been a huge success for those learners, for the teachers, and for the education system as a whole.
Help me understand. I want to kick the tin a little bit further down the road, if you'll allow me, Lumka, as well. We talk about the social investment side of this. It's in the title of your organization. From a social perspective, how do we, as society, invest in this cohort that is being literally through a global pandemic? How do we view them and their marks? How do we make sure that they don't become some sort of lost Matric generation?
I think for us, it's important at this stage to empower every student with information. And so at this stage, the critical thing is to allow students not to be discouraged if their Matric results aren't exactly what that anticipated. There are very many avenues that students have that they can make use of. There are remarks if students don't do very well. They can also sit. I mean, I don't think a lot of students know about the Second Chance Matric program, but essentially the government offers you another chance to improve your marks in the subjects that you'd like. And I think it's also important to give information, because not everybody will go to university. Not everybody is suited for university type learning. And so I think empowering with information around the benefit of TVET colleges, the benefit of vocational learning, and also just, skills kind of on the job training, learnerships, internships. So I think the social investment space, be it corporates, be it NGOs, have a really big role to play in putting out that information and allowing these matric students to have as many opportunities for success as possible, and also changing the narrative that university is the only avenue for success. I think there are very many opportunities where we can all thrive, and it doesn't necessarily always have to be in a traditional university type of setting.
Oh, Lumka, I'm going to say thank you very much indeed. I think it's sound advice as well. I think all matriculants, their parents, caregivers, grandparents, whoever it was that was helping them go through the last couple of years, need to remember it's not the end of the road if you didn't hit the target you were aiming for. I think you phrased it so nicely. Lumka, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Lumka Tshiki from Tshikululu Social Investments joining us for more. And there is an expectation it's not going to be pre-pandemic levels for the matric results. How could it be? Grade 10, grade 11, grade 12. It's this result on Thursday. We're going to see the real effects of COVID-19, not just last year, but over the past few years.